Hello and welcome to Paula's Run Club with me, Paula Radcliffe.
And me, Christopher Thompson.
And this is a very special, but might be a little bit glitchy episode. So if there are a few delays and a little bit of laughing from Tomo, then that would be because I am up a mountain. I'm actually in my happy place. And we did try and turn the camera around to show everybody the view out of my old training apartment in Font-Romeu in the Pyrenees. But we lost the signal and it kept dropping out. So I've currently opened the window, seem to have a stronger signal, hotspotting off my phone. And we are trying to bring you this kickstart to a marathon build, and we've decided to go with a little bit of a marathon build towards New York. Tomo?
Yes, we have. Can you just say Font-Romeu again?
What do you want me to say with a French accent?
Yeah, this is the way you went. I heard it. Font-Romeu. Very good. Very good.
Yeah,
we should do an episode in French because you actually are fluent.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not.
When you say it the English way, people in France don't know what you're talking about. But when you say it the French way, people in the UK and from the Netherlands and wherever else they come from to train here, and there are a lot at the moment, don't understand what you're talking about either. So it's fun if I'm speaking in English, and it's Font-Romeu if I'm in France. But I'm in France now.
It's like in America. You can't say water in America. You have to say water.
Yeah.
When you're ordering, it's like it makes a difference, a slight twinge. Yes. Anyway, we're slightly different this week because I'm going to do this bit of an intro, which will explain more in a little bit, because we have a very, very special guest coming on, and it was me that insisted on this against Paula's wishes. But this week, you're going to be the guest on Paula's Run Club because, as you mentioned, we're going into marathon season coming up in the autumn, and we wanted to revisit what basically we got born out of, the whole marathon journey to London, and we want to revisit that and spend the next few weeks doing exactly that, going back into that marathon kind of mindset, hopefully try and ease those worries, fears, make it more accessible for people to physically do. And obviously now we are it is planned 12 weeks from New York, and you, Paula, have a lot of history with New York, a lot of fond memories, a lot of incredible races and experiences, and I think why not use that and get a lot of those stories, which I know them, and get the audience to hear more and more about it. I've got a few memories there, but we want to hear about you. So, yeah, and especially there's one with Donald Trump as well. we want to hear.
You're teasing that one, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
We do want to hear from the listeners, and I think that's the key point for you. So remember that WhatsApp number is +44.
You're going to take it from me, my one chance.
Oh, sorry. Go on, go then.
My one. I was going to do it. No, joking.
Go on, then.
Anyway, yeah. So I was going to say, so we want to hear from you. We want to hear all about all these things. Get in touch, please, at Paula's Run Club at momentumbroadcast.co.uk. WhatsApp +44 7564 747914. We're all over socials on Insta, TikTok, X, and please don't forget to watch on full podcast on YouTube, which might be a bit tricky this week because we're having a few internet connection issues from Paula at the moment in Font-Romeu. But before we kickstart and introduce you into the pod and ask you a few questions, which I'm very particularly excited about, and thank you very much for agreeing to do it. How you doing? How you getting on? How's the running? What's going on?
Getting on well, thank you. Managed to gradually and slowly build up my running. So the good news is I'm back running three, maybe 4 days on, a day of rest, and calf is tolerating that and gradually able to pick up the pace a little bit, so I can actually stay with Raf on some of his easy runs now. And while I'm up here in the mountains, I am going to catch up with Jared Hartman. So I'm also going to get some back videos for the listeners there in terms of some strengthening work. And he is going to check out my calf and hopefully get the green light to move forward a little bit more. I guess the biggest thing I've noticed is because I have that arthritic foot that essentially ended my career, I was told just to keep doing what I was doing on that. But when you pull your calf, you can't keep running on it. So I've almost had to baby that back more than the calf injury in terms of just getting it used to impact and running every day. So there have been a couple of mornings where it's back to going backwards down the stairs and really trying to loosen up that joint in my foot. But again, it's getting there, and it likes the mountains because, and I am going to share some of these because I did bring my glasses with me that I can go on runs with. It likes the soft trails, and there are a lot of soft pine needle trails. And I know we've had a lot of questions from listeners about the way to come back from injuries and avoid injuries, and especially impact and overuse injuries. Getting off road on soft trails as much as you can, or on grass, is the safest way to avoid them, as well as that all-round strengthening.
Perfect. One of the things I've been to Font-Romeu a lot is the fact that you mentioned it yesterday, how there's so many world-class athletes just on the track. You turn up and there's loads, and you were saying to me last night how Raf jumped in with some Olympic medalists to do some 400 reps, which a big shout out to him for that.
It was Christmas, I think, for him, because he got to go down to the track, and there was Bashir Abdi, Olympic silver medalist, with his group training there, including Sultan Hassan. Mo Farah was there. One of his daughters was doing a session with Noeli Arrigo and Natoya Gultopin, and so it was a very busy day on the track, and cool for Raf to get to jump in and do that.
But anyway, without further ado, and before the producer tells us off for taking too long in the opening bit, the person that I'm going to introduce onto Paula's Run Club is I'm going to have the pleasure of interviewing you, Paula, and your stories and your unique insight into New York Marathon. So without further ado, let's turn our attention to you and all about your amazing, incredible stories around New York Marathon. This is awesome. And again, like, I have to emphasize that you weren't totally sure about this, because we don't like to make it about ourselves or yourself. This podcast, it is about the audience and about them and any guests we bring on. But really and truthfully, Paula, your history with New York and New York Marathon is incredible. Your record there and your successes there speak for themselves, but there's also stories behind every single one. And I think it's worth peeling back the onion a little bit, because, and I say onion because there are some emotional bits in there. See what I've done there? See, I'm not bad at this. Thanks very much. So without further ado, because otherwise we'll go off on tangents and not fit everything in, and there's a lot to get through, and we probably won't get through it all. You mentioned earlier your intro into New York, and this is something that I think is lovely, is New York, the family kind of build a relationship with the athletes, and you go on a bit of a journey with them. And your journey started in 95 or 96 with the Fifth Avenue Mile.
Yeah, so in 1995, I actually went out with Gary. Now my husband wasn't even my boyfriend then, was a friend, and he was racing in the men's version. And we went out a week before. It was the end of the season, and we thought, well, I'll have a break in New York. And I think we must have walked over every inch of Manhattan. We went up the Empire State. We went out to the Statue of Liberty. We did everything that you can do in New York. And when we arrived, we actually went for a run in the park, and came back thinking we'd got dropped into the middle of an event, like a marathon or a half marathon or something. And it was just a typical Sunday morning in the park. Just that many people going around rollerblading, on bikes, running as well. And I was just captivated by this like oasis in the middle of New York City. And I think fell in love with that. Probably did a bit too much walking, because I ended up second in the Fifth Avenue Mile that year, and then went back.
It says on Power of 10 you won it, so take it.
No, I won it in 96 and 7.
I know, but Power of 10 says you won it in 95.
No, Sinead Delahunty won it. Don't take it away from her.
Well, no,
but I did learn how to race it. So basically, you run down Fifth Avenue and you go up a hill and down the other side. So I kind of thought the next year coming into it, let's see if I can just run really hard off the top, up and over the hill, basically. Kind of similar to what I've talked about using to win the World Cross Country as a junior in Boston. A lot of people, and this is very valid in a marathon too, a lot of people get to the top of the hill and think, oh, haven't I done well? I've worked up that hill. I'll have a little bit of a breather, gather myself again, and then push on. Whereas if you just keep running off the top, you kind of have got a bit of momentum for free, and you can recover while doing that. And I think in 96, I actually managed to get in front of a pacemaker going up the hill. So the rest of the field were kind of looking at the pacemaker. And meanwhile, I had got a little bit of a gap, and then I managed to hold on to that gap. And in 97, same thing again. And I actually ended up beating Carlos Sacramento of Portugal, who had won the world championship 1500 meters that year. So yeah, it was really important and special to me. But I will share these pictures on socials.
I was going to say, who was it sponsored by, Paula? Who was the mile sponsored by?
It was the Donald J. Trump mile, and we will put up the picture of the podium, and maybe put a little bit of quick Q&A out this week to see if people can guess the people in the picture.
That's a good one.
Three of them. Let's hope you're all going to get me. Three of them are quite easy. Once you've worked out the second one, you're probably going to work out who the daughter is. And the winner of the men's is probably going to be harder.
You're terrible at quizzes.
Clues.
Like, can you name Donald Trump, who is it's like
who's sponsoring it and handing out the prize?
It's like, can you name Steve, who's also in it? Oh, he's not in it, but you know what I mean.
No,
anyway,
Steve's
yeah.
not in it.
No,
Can you name the men's winner?
Well, that's ironic because Steve never won it, didn't he? He never won the mile out there, even though he tried. Steve Cram,
Crammy did go into. I think he did. I'm not even sure. I know Peter Elliott did, and the prize changed a lot. So in the 80s, it was a Mercedes-Benz that you could either bring back or get in the UK. I don't know how that worked, but by the time that I won it, it still was really cool. I actually won a Chopard watch, but it was quite scary running back because they strap it on your wrist on the podium, and then I ran back to the hotel through the park, running very quickly and quite scared because something
the
you
faster
don't
mile
normally
was
go
after
running
the race
with that watch on your wrist, do you?
Yeah.
And I did treasure it for a long time. It actually got stolen last year, which I was very sad about it. But then I thought, you know what? I've had over 25 years of use out of it, and
I think that's a good message to say. If Donald Trump's listening, Paula needs a new watch.
I don't think he'd provided it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying.
I don't know.
You never
whether
know.
It was
Let's
just
put it
a
out there.
sponsor of the race. I'm not sure. Anyway, I got a lot of use out of it. A lot of happiness. So
you told a lot. You told the time. You told the time well.
I could tell the time. Yeah.
So then, you went 2001. You ran the 10K, and I kind of want to rush through this because I want to get to the four marathons you actually ran. 3 of them you won, but in 2001 you ran the 10K, and you said to me, to put it in perspective, I just want to say, like, I've run that 10K, the lap of Central Park. So if you're ever in New York, people, and if people are listening, they know how tough that lap is, and it's pretty much a 10K almost exactly on the road specifically. And you managed to run what we think was a British record at the time, 30:47 from memory. But you said that significantly, that's when you fell in love with road running there and then, wasn't it?
Yeah, and New York, I think. I mean, we've talked about the fact that I'm here in Font-Romeu. I spent a lot of time training here. I love the rolling hills, and that's essentially what Central Park was. And I loved the bars of New York. I just loved everything about racing there. And bear in mind, this is 2001, so I'd kind of not yet turned to the marathon. I was just off winning the World Cross Country, which was a huge big goal of mine as a senior. And I went in May to race 10K on the road, then went to the World Championships in Edmonton that year, ended up 4th again. As Alan Story alluded to, just didn't pan out as I had wanted to. And my mind was starting to turn towards the marathon. And I think that was a huge turning point for me to win the World Cross Country, because I wanted to tick off what I could do over the shorter distances before I moved up to the marathon. I didn't know I was going to get quicker over the shorter distances as well. So 2001, racing that mini was kind of a first taster. And then we started talking about running the London Marathon. And that went super well. And so I didn't actually get the chance to go to New York until 2004 for the first time. And it was in very, very different circumstances by then, because it was coming off the back of Athens and the devastation and disappointment that I'd suffered in Athens, and it was really kind of a pick-me-up. So to go a little bit into the backstory, I made a decision. It probably worked out to be the wrong decision, but we made the decision after the world record to kind of wrap it in cotton wool a little bit, and not to over race going into Athens, so not to race another marathon from 2003. So I raced a half. I ran 65:40 in the Great North end of 2003, and then started the build towards Athens. And looking back, I mean, I picked up a hernia injury. I was going to run the World Cross Country, couldn't do that, had to get the hernia repaired, and then built back into really strong shape. I mean, I ran 30:17 on the track on a very windy day in Gateshead, which I think was in better shape. I ran a British record at the time, 14:29 in the European Cup in Poland. So I was in really good shape, but maybe a little bit too early that year. And maybe with hindsight, I was just trying to be too ready for those Olympics and just picked up the injury. But the upshot of it all was I wasn't able to finish the marathon as we've talked about. And I did a little bit of thankfully short-term damage to my stomach in terms of the tolerance of the stress combined with the anti-inflammatories, meant that I wasn't absorbing food properly going into it. So ultimately what I did was hit the wall in Athens as well as having the injury, which was the problem. And I had to kind of rebuild and go on quite a strict diet, couldn't eat a lot of acidic basic foods that you think are good for you, like mushrooms and tomatoes, chicken, lots of things I couldn't do, and then could gradually build back. We went away to Flagstaff to basically escape from everything and just to kind of get back to a place where I was going out for a run when I wanted to go for a run. If I didn't feel like it, I wasn't. But because running is also what I use as a healing tool, it kind of helped me to come through a lot of that trauma and to process a lot of it. And I can remember it was maybe just before 2 weeks out from the New York City Marathon, coming back from a run, coming in the door of the condo we were staying in, and just saying to Gary, I wonder if I could go and run New York. What do you think? And he's like,
2 weeks
a bit
before.
Crazy. I'm not sure that you'll be able to get in. But we called Mary Wittenberg, who was the race director at the time, spoke to her and David Monti, who was putting together the elite fields. And they basically said, we don't have any budget, but you are welcome to come and race here. And hats off at the time to Dina Castor, who had won the bronze medal in Athens, she was the big American going into that race. And she reached out and said, absolutely welcome. And she did not try to block in any way, in contrast to other athletes in the race. And so huge admiration to her for doing that. And I was just really grateful to New York for having me back, because I just wanted to, when we talked about Theo learning to ride the bike, I wanted to get back on the bike and just get back there, get back out racing. And my concern was not whether I was 100% fit. It was, I'm 100% healthy. I missed racing. I want to get back to enjoying racing. There's a buzz coming from just giving your best in a race. And it doesn't really matter what the outcome is, as long as you're able to give your best. And I think that was what was really important to me, that I could do that year. But I do remember the night before, I must have had a bit of too much of a rich spaghetti bolognese or something. And about midnight, waking up with really bad case of heartburn. And thank goodness we were in New York, because Gary basically went out at 2 a.m, trying to find like an all-night corner chemist that would sell some Pepto-Bismol.
Which there's plenty of in New York.
I know. And I was knocking back the Pepto-Bismol and managed to get mostly through the race. It did kind of come on in the closing stages of the race. And the BBC had actually sent Sally Gunnell out to do a report at the time, which was a massive big deal. It only happened that one time in New York. And I can remember her being there doing the interview and me just saying, I'm really sorry, Sally, I'm going to throw up. So bless her. She was like a mum. She took me into this little tent and found me a corner to throw up in. It remains the one and only time that I've ever thrown up after a race. So I wasn't 100% over it, but I was enough to be able to get back and race. And most importantly for me, I just loved it. I loved racing in New York. And I kind of ticked off that personal goal for me. I thought about it, and I like to set these goals. Maybe I picked it up from one of my idols, Joan Benoit Samuelson, who always likes to have a story that she's working towards. And I thought, well, I've won the Fifth Avenue Mile, I've won the mini 10K. I wonder if anyone's won all three, and it would be nice and cool to try and do that. So it ticked that one off for me, which was something special.
I will. If we get Mo on, I'll tell the story about the time Mo, after the race in Zurich, threw up all over me. We've all, and it was a British record, to be fair, so I didn't mind. But yeah, no, because that's before we talk about that, your legacy that you've left in New York with the uniqueness of winning everything there's only one event you haven't won, which is a 5K, and I have. So we've completed the set between us. I've only done one of them. But to be fair, the 5K didn't exist when you were doing this.
We're talking on the road, right? Because none of us have done Milrose.
This is true, yes. This is true. Don't find the flaws in it. But the thing, because you mentioned earlier about the Gary Trail, and I always felt like New York, it's almost like it could have been designed by you, because it brings out just the best in you as a runner and what defines you as an athlete, your toughness, and the fact it is a marathon and it's not just a flat. There's pacing involved, there's tactics involved, because they have no pacemakers there. It's with the shoe leaping in technology, we're seeing a lot more kind of just almost time trial races rather than an actual race. And New York prides itself on it being a race, and you don't know what's going to happen. And I think I implore people to Google or YouTube YouTube Paula's finish, especially from 2004 and 2007, and you just see that raw grit and determination coming out of both athletes. I respect to the athletes who came second, but in 2004 was Susan Chepkamai. But you literally, the last 10K is tough, but the last kind of half a mile is just raw uphill, just brute strength. At the end of a marathon, you ran 2:23:10, and I just think it defines you and just who you are. The way you just we talked about track, you're trying to run away from athletes. In a marathon, it's the last athlete to be broken. But what is going through your mind in those final stages? And like I say, people watch it, it's just that it was literally 30 seconds to go before you broke Susan and had a 3-second victory. But you cannot stop. You have to run beyond the line. Otherwise, the hill makes you stand still. You have to keep driving.
Yeah, I mean, it's the iconic finish. So for anybody who has been to Central Park and knows the hill that climbs to Tavern on the Green from Columbus Circle, that's the finish, and that's the final 400 meters or so of that marathon. So it's it's a climb that is coming, and you've already run the rolling hills through Central Park, which are for me the biggest parts. I mean, people talk about the bridges, and the bridges in New York, they are a pull going up. The biggest and most significant is actually the drop for me onto First Avenue.
Yeah. Noisy, isn't it?
And you're turning corners, and they even put hay bales up to make sure that you don't go into one of those chicanes almost. But the real hills are in the final couple of miles round Central Park, and then you come onto Central Park South, and even that is gradually uphill. And I think that's the point that you're alluding to. That really put it into my ballpark. So in 2007, I was locked with Getawame and had been for most of the race, and we're coming up Central Park South, and I was still just trying to turn the screw. And I'd been in that situation so many times on the track, on the cross country. I think I'd beaten her once in all of those times, through from 1997 probably for the first time, certainly 98, all the way through, and I'd only beaten her once in that finish in Ostend, knee deep in mud. And something in me just really believed that it was different on the marathon, because it's not about a sprint finish. It's about being stronger, and it's about holding together, and it's about really driving up that hill. And actually, for me, the most iconic finish from New York that will stick in my mind forever was the race between Hendrik Ramala and Paul Tergat.
What year was that?
I'm not actually sure what year. I want to say it was might have been 2006 or 7.
2004.
There you go.
Did Ramala win it?
He did, by the thickness of his vest. And
so
again,
that
would have been the
2004,
person who would win on the track all the time. But there was nothing to choose the whole way up the hill. And exactly what you're talking about, you never think in the marathon it's going to be running through the line. People tell you on the track and in a 5K and a 10K, they might say keep running through the line till after the line to make sure that you're giving everything to get through that line. That was what Hendrik had to do to win that race that year.
I mean, yeah, because that's the thing that it's a quiz question when you go over to New York. You know how you open the NASDAQ as well, which is really cool. You get to they pick an athlete.
You ring the bell on Wall Street to open trading for the day, don't you? And it's very, very cool.
They do these little things that are very cool. But that was the quiz question. What's the smallest margin of victory? And in New York Marathon, it is a second, and it is that iconic finish. But that's where again it's a second
because they don't do split seconds either. They always round things up, don't they, in a marathon?
Which is contentious for me because my half marathon PB is 61:00, but you can see on the thing it was 60:59. I'm just anyway.
You know, it's contentious for me as well because in Chicago when I crossed the line it was 2 hours 17:17, which is my lucky number.
Which is your lucky number.
They rounded it up to 18.
That's harsh. Well, we know the real story, but that 2007, like you say, like because and I think this is one of the reasons why I think people love you as a person and as a sports person is that you follow the journey and the story of an athlete and your track story through the commentary of Crammy, which is so iconic and so many times of which race is that one where he says at the end, how many times do we have to go through this with Paula, like the almost girl on the track.
Sydney or Edmonton. I think it's one of those.
Yeah, it's so iconic because that's exactly as you alluded to, that you had these one or two athletes that seemed to pip you. I know you in 99, I think Seville, you were second in the 10K, but so often fourth. And in 2007, when you did turn the table on Getewami and Belief, I know the victory is actually down as like 22 seconds, but you were together with about 200 to go, was it?
So there's a really interesting story to that. So we were together all the way through to the point that we were running through the Bronx and we were getting all these cheers and they're just shouting, "Go Shorty, go Shorty." And I, as a naive kid out of UK, had no idea what they were talking about. I just came back and I said to Gary, why were they teasing her? Because she's smaller than me. But they were just really getting behind and getting locked in the race. And then as I said, we're locked together all the way along Central Park South. We turned with 400 meters to go or so. And I just thought, give it as much as you can and drive hard, and you've got to judge this right. And one of the things, and I know I've talked about it on the pod before, my dad used to say to me, when you're in front, never look behind. It's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of weakness. The person chasing you knows that you're worried, so they will chase you down. Do not look behind. So I didn't look behind. And in my mind, I could almost hear her, and she was still right behind me. So I'm driving hard towards the line. And bear in mind, this is 2007. I think it was London 2006, where at the finish of the London Marathon, somebody ran onto the course and tried to tackle Dorata Tulu, who was leading the women's race, and tried to disrupt the race. And Dave Bedford actually had to run on and rugby tackle them off the course. So that happened in London. And then in 2007, it may even have been 2007 in London. So that was the backstory coming into it. I crossed the finish line and Mary Wittenberg is waiting as race director with the flags that they like to hand out in New York. And she comes up, gives me a big hug, gives me the flag. And I look back over my shoulder and I said, well, Mary, where did she go? She was right there. So I saw the panic in her face and she went running back down the course. And at that moment, Getawami came jogging around the corner. And what she'd done was maybe only 100 meters or so out, I just realized that she was certainly clear in second. She wasn't going to beat me. So she just switched off the burners and just jogged in. And so those 22 seconds all came into play in that final bit. But I'm still driving for the line like a idiot, never reaching for my watch to stop it or anything like that. Just not even celebrating, just thinking
it's not an idiot,
that she was still right behind me.
But it must have felt bittersweet with everything, the backstory, and because I remember being sat with shout out to Gemma Hillier and Lewis Moses, good friends of ours, and a lot of people listening probably will know who they are. And I sat with them, and we were just so emotionally involved because, again, the backstory there is Isla was just almost 10 months old for you. So for you, we've got those iconic pictures of you holding Isla at the finish. And it's just such a great memory. I mean, we need to do a whole episode of that journey, I think, for you, pre and post. It's too much now.
Yeah, because 2004 and indeed 2008 were coming back after heartbreak. So for me, New York really became somewhere that I went to feel better, like a big pick-me-up. And it was my comeback place. In 2007, I was coming back, but for a very different reason and a very happy reason.
Yeah.
So it's very different in my mind. I was just excited. I'd been there in 2006. Actually, Gary ran it while I was pregnant with Isla, with Crammy, and with Tony Bignell, who we had on in the podcast earlier. So I had been there, and I was just so excited to get back to racing. I'd run the Great North Run, but I hadn't raced since 2005. So I'd missed the whole of 2006 through pregnancy and injury as well. So it was really important just to get back and enjoy racing, and I loved it. And the funny thing is that my time was 1 second difference from 2004 to 2007, but very different splits at halfway and very different ways of racing it.
But that's the thing, like pacing in New York is massive. Like you know, we talk about many ways to skin a cat. Me and my animal sayings, but it is like, that's the thing about New York. I've watched races where athletes have had, what was that athlete recently had almost like a 2-minute lead at halfway but didn't finish. He was he was a good athlete. It wasn't like he'd run like 2:04 or 2:03 and he just tried to run New York like he would any marathon. But the difference is I think New York, if you don't, you have to have a very, very good connection with self and self-pacing to judge it, to get it right.
The key thing for New York as well, and I'm going to try and upload some photos to socials for people.
Yeah, you should.
And I was very privileged that I got the chance to go back after I'd finished and after I'd retired to go back and actually work in New York as the commentator that goes with the bike that follows the elite women. And again, you see the road surface in New York is part of the challenge. So it's not just the undulations and the bridges. It's also that road surface, which is concrete for lots of it. There's parts of the bridges into the Bronx and out of the Bronx that are actually grills, metal grills. And that has been slightly negated, the effect of that now with the advances in shoe technology. But back then, it was really something you had to manage. And so in 2008, when I was already starting to struggle with my bunion and the pain from that, I vividly remember the back and forth in my head and in my hotel room the night before trying to decide which shoes to wear, because I actually raced in a racer trainer. I raced in the Pegasus Light, which was like a lighter version of the Pegasus trainer rather than a racing shoe for the extra cushioning, because it was New York and I knew that concrete was going to really impact. It would make your feet burn, it would hurt your legs more, but big thing, it was going to irritate that joint in my toe really badly. So we were weighing up and Gary's trying to convince me that this shoe is fine, and I can remember his mum going, "Oh my god, that's so heavy, you can't run in that." And I did run in it, and I spent the first 10 miles cursing that I was running in this heavy shoe, and the last 10 miles so grateful that I'd worn that one, because I did run a bit slower. I ran like 2:23:56, so I ran about 45 seconds slower than I had done in the previous ones. But I was able to finish really, really strongly. And more importantly, I did have to rub a lot of pain-killing gels into it, but I could walk on my foot afterwards, which was important that year.
Because that's the thing. Whenever someone asks me about shoes, I always use the line: if you're going to wear a shoe for a marathon, it's not about how it feels when you stood in the start line; it's how it feels when you get 10 to 12 miles in, and that's not necessarily the same shoe. Because you want to feel light and quick at the start, but in reality, you want to support and cushioning when you get tired. It's like my dad always said to me about with golfers as a caddy, you know, that you don't want to say just before they hit a shot, "Oh, I'm not sure about that club." That's not really what you want to put in their head. So when your mum's saying, "Well, that's quite a heavy shoe," that's probably not you kind of want to just say,
as well.
"Oh, sorry, your mother-in-law's." But anyway, so yeah, because 2008 as well, what I think's really interesting and relevant to mention to people is that the week before you ran in Great South Run, the 10-mile race.
Was
you
it
ran
only the week before?
Yeah, it's 51:11 for the 10 miles. And I think that was something that when I went to marathon, I found interesting, is that athletes, if it fits within the program and it works with what you're trying to do, that athletes still run quite hard even 7 days out. And obviously for you to run 51:11, which was then a British record, and I think it's still your PB. Apologies,
I think it might be one of the only times I've raced 10 miles apart from when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, it's not a common distance, but you ran 51:11 for 10 miles the week before New York and then won New York. And it's like, the rationale behind that, I was going to ask, was that a kind of almost I'm in great shape, just suppress it a bit, or was there an element of get a training effect out of this ready for New York? What was the kind of angle around doing that?
I have to think back now as well, but
We need Gary
I do
doing.
think no, I mean, I think it was that it fit. I hadn't done the Great North that year. This story in 2008 was very different to 2004 when the injury just cropped up and a couple of weeks before the marathon, and I was in the shape of my life. In 2008, because of the bunion issue that I talked about, I was running slightly differently. So I ended up with a stress fracture in my femur that was diagnosed early May. And so that meant that we already knew it was going to be tough for the Olympics. We still have an Alta-G actually behind the wall behind me. It's stuck in our kids' bedroom now. So they have to share that with a big Alta-G because it's too big and too heavy to move, and it will probably break if we try and move it at this point. But I spent a lot of time training on that, cross-training, getting ready for Beijing. And in all honesty, probably if Athens hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gone to Beijing. But it was important to me to go to those Olympic Games and to run the marathon. And I was in shape cardio-wise, but as we talk about time and time again, you have to prepare your body for the impact of the marathon, and there are no shortcuts in that. So in 2008, I went to Beijing. I had about 10 days of running outside going into it, which wasn't enough. And my legs just cramped up and got sore. So I wasn't able to run as fast as I was capable of doing. And actually, funny story of your coach, Mark Rowland, who was out there looking after the team. Who is
still, just quickly, he's still got, I think I'm right in saying, on the men's front, he's got the only British record. Oh no, because Mo's had, I was going to say Mo had all the distance records, but now they've been beaten by George and Josh. But up until like a couple of years ago, Mark was the only British record Mo hadn't got in middle and long distance on the track with the steeple.
Mo did the steeplechase.
Yeah, 8:07, bronze medal, Seoul Olympics, Mark Rowland, hit him up, legend.
But
anyway,
he was out there with the team, and he went round the course and he noticed that they had put out my 25k and my 30k drinks bottle on the same table at 25k. So bless him, he picked up my 30k bottle and he ran 5k down the women's marathon course with everybody shouting at him, "Hey, get off the course, you're a bloke, you shouldn't be in this race." And he put it back on the table 5k down the road. And I have never had the guts to tell him that I was not able to run close enough to max to actually need that fuel. So I took it anyway. And it still is one of the kindest things that someone has done for me in a race, to make sure that my bottle was there. So I was able to finish in a very slow time, very disappointing. But most importantly, not making it any worse, not hurting my leg. And I built towards New York from there. So I think that's why we put the Great South in, to kind of get a race in and be able to do that. But we stayed here in Font-Romeu getting ready for that 2008 to really get ready for New York and go back there and run well.
And then to complete the story of your four New York marathons, and I actually, 2009, I know you were fourth, and 2:29, 27, but for me it has one of the most interesting stories, because over those 5 or 6 years leading up to that point, you developed quite a reputation of not just being a world record holder, but running marathons not just bravely, but just taking the ball around the horn. Athletes would turn up to a marathon, they saw your name on the start list of a marathon, they almost set their mind to, right, this is holding on to Paula for as long as I can. Effectively, she is effectively the conductor of this marathon. And because a lot of the time when you're racing, you're not sure how it's going to go. And 2009, it was really funny because everyone just thought, Paula's here, right, we just got to settle in for a battle, it's going to be quick from the beginning. And that's not what happened at all. And everyone just within the first 2 miles, like, okay, what do? We don't know what to do, because that's not what you did, was it?
No. So in 2009, what had happened was in the April of that year, I'd had my bunion repaired and my toes straightened and whatever, and it had taken me some time to build back from. And the upshot was I'd actually gone to New York and won the half that you talked about earlier in August, and irritated the bottom of my hamstring, so I wasn't able to go to the world champs as I'd wanted to do then. And so instead tried to regroup and come back to New York, but it still hadn't settled. So it was kind of like bottom of the hamstring attachment attachment, and I could run, but I couldn't push. So that meant that I was just basically hanging on, and I ran quite slow. I mean, I think I ran about 2:29 that year, and I actually couldn't
Well, it's
believe.
not slow. That's not slow. It's just not
Well, when I'd run
2:23.
2:23, all the other times there, and when I'd run 2:15, it is quite slow. But I think
Yeah,
I
but it's a
couldn't
tougher
believe
course.
that they weren't running away from me sooner, that I managed to still stay in contact for as long as I did in the race. And I did kind of, I mean, I was taking time off afterwards anyway, but it did get sore. But the big upshot was that I wasn't able to, you're right, turn the screw from the start. And I couldn't believe that nobody did it to me, because they could see that I was kind of struggling and carrying something. And it wasn't like an Olympics where you try and hide it. I was quite open, like, I've got a bit of an injury, but I'm just going to see if I can run through it and see if I can manage to go with it. So unfortunately I couldn't, and thank goodness it wasn't the year before, because in 2008 the organisers of New York, so the race is sponsored a bit by Tiffany, and you'll see that the Donald J. Trump vase that I'll put on the socials says Tiffany on that. But they had actually gone to, and I don't know if you can see on here, so they had gone to Tiffany and they had commissioned 3 diamonds on a chain in 2008. And they had it in a box for me when I crossed the finish line. And all I could think was, thank goodness no one told me beforehand, because that would have been an extra pressure on, because it was 3 victories, so 3 diamonds. And they'd been
That's very
commissioned
cool.
that, which was really sweet and
That's
really
cool,
kind,
man.
but also put a bit of pressure on it.
Yeah, I've got a Tiffany plate for 3rd place, but that's not, it's like that Dundee thing. That's not a knife. This is a knife. This prize is much better. That's awesome. But no, I thank you for taking us on this journey with your New York marathons. There's so much more we could talk about with it all, because I think there's so many, and hopefully through the series we will touch on more stuff. But I wanted to,
and do remember, it is a build up to all the marathons.
Yes,
as well.
it is.
So please do think that you can write in and ask any questions. And also, if you're not even thinking about a marathon, if your question relates to something else, this is still Paula's Run Club. It is your corner to come and ask whatever you want to. And remember, those contacts again are Paula's Run Club at momentumbroadcast.co.uk, and on socials at Paula's Run Club. And that WhatsApp number, which I will learn, is +44 7564 747914.
the thing I was going to finish on before you did that, but that's fine. We're still learning the ropes. Was because obviously, shout out the fact you're the only Grand Slam. You're the only one to have won the mile. I know we half mentioned it, but that, which is the record you have. But can you tell me the last British athlete, male or female, to win the marathon in New York?
It's me, isn't it?
No, it's a slightly trick question. I'll tell you, because you won't get it. Because in 2020 it was virtual. So the winner of the men's virtual marathon was Kevin Quinn from the UK, legend, good friend of ours. He ran 2:23:48, so slower than you.
In the park.
I don't know where he did it because it was a virtual, but because I was looking up to check a few things, and I was like, blimey, Kev Quinn. And then the women's winner was Steph Bruce, who is also a good friend of ours.
I thought you were going to say the Fifth Avenue Mile, because that would have been harder, and there's been a lot of British.
Oh, there's been, Josh Kerr, I think, is the most written. Jake Whiteman's won it, and Gemma Reekie, and I'm sure Muir has as well. But lots of Brits, but just for the marathon. But Kevin Quinn is the last British winning the virtual, which I thought, oh, wicked. Well, thank you very much, Paula, for that. Against your wishes of me interviewing you, making it about you, but thank you. That was fantastic. I'm sure the audience got a lot out of it, and we will go back over some of those, some more stories over the next few episodes. But I think we'll turn our attention to listener interactions as we pause this and move on to all about everyone listening.
And now it is time to move on to those listener interactions. We do now have a name for the extra pod in the week. Don't forget to tune in to that weekly Shakeout, which will be coming later in the week. We'll be dropping on a Thursday. So if we move on to the listener interactions, we have actually a couple from the texts. Hayley Appleyard did write in. She wants to know how to optimize recovery and manage stress while she's recovering from an injury. I think what she's talking about is keeping that mental health balance that I know so many of us, and I've talked about it. It's the biggest thing I miss when I'm injured, is that I can't just go out and use the running as my stress release and as my sorting things out in my head, putting things in perspective, just arranging the day. And if you can't do that, what is the best way to kind of handle that? And I think owning it is a big part of it. I think accepting that, yeah, it sucks and you're not doing something that you would like to do. And it's okay to be annoyed about that. It's okay to be angry about that. Maybe go and use that frustration on a bit of cross training. Try and find different things. So it can be walking. Sometimes it can be pole walking. Get out on your favorite runs and just try and do it in a different way. Or take yourself somewhere different and do something that normally you can't do because you're trying to do your running. Go on holiday, take a break and do something to reset a little bit there. But yeah, the biggest thing is, I think, to keep visualizing that you will get back, because everybody gets back. It might be longer, it might be shorter time, but you do get back.
Yeah, my big tip is to set a ridiculously long-term goal, which you can almost certainly guarantee you'll be okay for, just to give yourself almost like a real kind of long fishing rod of a distance to something, so that it makes the short-term goals less urgent. So, even if it's something in 12 months time, I want to do a marathon or a 10k, just put something really far in the distance so that it helps you make adjustments in the short term that are realistic and less stressful, would be my big tip.
That's a good one.
Thanks, Paula.
That's good. So should we go
I'm not
with the
completely
other one from
useless on here
then.
then.
Going with another one from emails. We might go with another one from a text, shall we? So
Yeah,
Matt
go on then.
Tatler had also sent a text in, and his big question. So he tried to get in London Marathon, didn't get in for next year, but does want to do it in the future, and is currently walking and watching his steps and building up his daily steps. Wants to know at what point is it right to transition from walking to running. And I think this goes back a little bit to our Jeffing question, doesn't it? And I think the easiest way is to transition it like that. So just while you're out walking, add in a few minute jogs, walk again. When that becomes comfortable, build up to 2 minutes and kind of do it like that. And I would really say just tune in to how it feels and enjoy doing it. So do as much as feels enjoyable.
Just, it is literally, I know we use the cliche, the next step. And it's like, what's the next step? And that's why I think Jeffing's so brilliant, is it is literally the next step. And then you can just increase the length of time of runs between the walks and move from there. But certainly good luck, enjoy it. And listen, like you say, Paula, listen to your body and what it's telling you.
Yeah. And please let us know, Matt, and anybody else who's doing that, how it works, and feedback with that advice for other listeners that might be able to apply it as well. It's also a way, Hayley, to work back from injury, isn't it? Is to go out walking and start gradually building in the runs that way.
No,
back
absolutely.
To where you were.
Yeah, no. It literally injury. It's also a good well-being thing, because like Jeffing is something that you can do. You could literally go out the door for a walk to clear your head, and you're not necessarily in like your running kit, but you could still do a walk jog. And it sounds weird, but again, like I have a different set of kit to when I run to when I walk. That's not the weird bit. What I mean is that it would be weird to run in the stuff I normally walk in, but Jeffing means you probably could. So if you're out on a walk and think, you know what, I feel like just running and walking a bit, you could do that with everyday kit or everyday shoes. So it's kind of, it has a lot of good purposes and stuff. And again, it's my shame. Again, this is going to sound like I'm pushy, but it not remotely. Like my boy actually does enjoy doing the odd sprint here and there, like any kid do. And we were walking around a field and he just wanted to sprint up this hill, so we ended up doing like reps up and down it, not for any other reason of he just wanted to do it and then beat me. But he was better on the downhill. He was quicker than me down it because I was too scared. But anyway, so yeah, absolutely. So we going on to email Honours board.
Yeah, well, first of all, we're going to put Theo on there. So shout out to Theo for riding your bike without the stabilizers. I think that's a brilliant step forward, and we look forward to seeing where you go from there.
Mark Cavendish.
Yeah,
sprinter.
Maybe.
Sprinter bike sprinter.
A lot of people, or you could go Georgia Hunter Bell, does a lot on the bike as well.
Does she? No, they're good.
Yeah.
So are we going to do a couple
from the honours board?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start out with a lovely email that we got from James, who's actually nominating my coach, Alex Stanton, for the honours board. And he's saying that I mentioned that I was going to celebrate Alex's birthday and to get a few quotes and chats with him. And he says his daughter was part of the group coached by Rosemary and Alec at Bedford before they retired. Paula was often referenced by them as an example of how to achieve your goals, but there was never any pressure to win. They provided the framework to enjoy training, set realistic goals, and most importantly, to have fun with it. Despite retiring from coaching, they regularly turn up at meals. They talk to the girls, and I know this, they follow them through, they follow the progress of our kids as our kids are out there following their goals. And yes, it helps to have had great runners like Paula and Liz Yelling as well go through the coaching group, but it really is the knowledge and dedication that generations of children have been able to benefit from, thanks to Alex and Rosemary. So he is nominating them for the Honours Board, and I cannot echo that enough, because it has been brilliant. And he says, on the topic of being an inspiration, my daughter is lucky enough to race in Bedfordshire, to have a number of county trophies that have names on that shield that she's followed in the footsteps of. And a big thank you for inspiring those generations of kids, Alec and Rosemary. And like I say, really echo that one. That one makes me quite emotional, because they do mean a lot to me.
Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic. He's one of athletics legends, one of our finest. Am I going to do one more?
Mm-hmm.
This comes in from Rob Butler from London Marathon. Hi, Paula. In April, I ran London Marathon bouncing a tennis ball on my racket to raise money for Macmillan Cancer. Very good. I just wanted to reach out and say how helpful your podcast was during the training months. I don't think we talked about bouncing a tennis ball on a racket, so I'm assuming it was more the training.
The strength he must have had to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if he swapped arms. I don't know if I'd trust my left arm, I have to say. I'm right-handed. I'm not sure if I'd risk it. But anyway, the guests you had on were amazing, and I especially like the Steve Peters episode with tricks to distract your mind, which helped me massively. I'm not surprised, because it's like that patting your head, rubbing. You're trying to do so many things at once. I'm chuffed that you are carrying on the podcast and will hopefully help inspire lots of more people to run. Many thanks, Rob. Well, congratulations. That is awesome. And I agree, you will have inspired a lot of people, and obviously you've raised money for a fantastic cause. But I'm interested to know what he's going to do next, whether it's going to be trying to think juggle or something else with his badminton or something. I don't know.
Impressive, particularly through those crowded sections. And how do you manage a drink station?
Did he have spare balls in case he lost his tennis ball? Do you know what I mean? If it went in the Thames, I mean, you're just using a racket with no ball. You'd have to go through a lot of people in the crowd to get to the Thames. Hopefully they would throw it back out again. But managing to keep control of that, I think that's massive. So big hats off to Rob for that. I'm going to add to the Honours Board a guy that I did meet in Loughborough at a training camp that I did recently. Hi, Paula and Tomo. This is from John Irvin. I have to say, firstly, how amazing it is to listen to you both speak so passionately about your experiences with running. It's inspiring. Paula, I'm very excited to meet you soon, as we did at Loughborough University for the marathon training day. I'm struggling with injuries to my knees, one through having done Berlin Marathon back in 2022, and then a slightly torn MCL to the right knee just a few months ago, but certainly on the way to recovery and getting in the odd run to help ease the frustration of not being able to run as much. I loved your podcast with Alan Story and your initial discussion about injuries and how to stay focused. It's so difficult to watch others run when it feels like you should be out there yourself. But my goals are set to do the London Marathon next year with a charity should I get selected. I didn't realise 42 was a spring chicken age for marathon. So at 39, I feel very young despite my knees having a love-hate relationship with my running. Keep up the good work and look forward to meeting you and gaining your insights into a strong marathon at Loughborough. So I can confirm that John and I did both confirm the training and complete the training session there, me at a slightly different level because I wasn't able to run particularly fast. I did push Alice around the track a few times as well, and he did manage his knees through it. And good luck in London when you get in, hoping that you do get in there, John, and whichever is your next marathon. Awesome. Fantastic. This comes in from Mark Stockwell. Hi, Paula and Chris. I love the podcast. I was lucky enough to meet you both at Steve Cram's training camp at Rutland last November. I only started running in my mid-50s and ran my first marathon in 2007 at 4:05 at Brighton. I wanted to run London, but having never been successful in the ballot, I set myself the target of getting a GFA place. Good for age, that means place. I've achieved this in my fifth marathon at Brighton 2022, 3:29, and ran London in 2023, the year I was 10th. Just a pat on the back for me, do you know what I mean? 2 weeks after meeting you both in 2004, I ran the marathon PB 3:28 in Valencia. Congratulations there. I also can't claim the camp I can't claim the camp affected my training too much, as only 2 weeks out from the race, I was definitely motivated to trust the training and stick to an even pace throughout. I also ran Boston in April to 2025, but didn't respect the downhills in the first half. Sound familiar? Yes, it does. My Valencia time results in an invitation to run at the 2025 Abbott Age Group World Championships in New York this November, so your podcast fits nicely with my training block. In 2025, I also ran my fastest ever 10K 42:40 in Chalgrove, Oxfordshire, and half marathon, an hour and 33:07 at Reading. I'm now 66 and I'm getting faster year on year, so it's never too late. Keep on running. Mark Stockwell. And he's also included, I love the picture from him at the, I can't see the, I can only see his number. I can't see the marathon. Apologies. We need to post that, but thank you so much, Mark.
Valencia.
It doesn't, maybe it could be. I can't tell from the
doesn't look
the
like
beard.
Boston.
No, it's definitely not Boston. It does look more like, to be fair, it looks like, in fact, it is Valencia. You can see from the background. No, that is Valencia.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Nick, it was good to see you, mate, and that's fantastic. And what a great story that is, and a passionate kind of read and progression through. And I think that's what personal running journey is all about. It's fantastic.
Good luck in New York. We should actually mention that it is, of course, incorporating that World Marathon Majors Age Group World Championships this year. Hi, Paula and Christopher. This is from Nicker Grant. Can't believe how timely your podcast was this evening. It's freezing cold and dark here in Melbourne, Australia.
Does that ever happen?
Thank you for listening.
Does it ever get cold there?
It does. I recently saw a picture of a friend who's on holiday in Sydney, and you couldn't see the Opera House because it was so cloudy and rainy. But so very sorry about that weather for you there, Nicole. I was walking home from work and thinking of every reason to stop my planned threshold session. I really didn't want to do it. The couch was calling my name, and the entire walk home I was dreaming up ways to avoid running. Fortunately, you guys started talking about how much better we always feel after a run.
Yep.
So I managed to trick myself into putting on my runners when I got home, and off I went. About 30 minutes into the run, worst case scenario happened. It bucketed it down with icy cold rain. I was freezing wet, and of course absolutely loved every minute of it. Know the feeling, Nicole.
Brilliant.
Felt brilliant afterwards, not to mention smug and proud of myself. Really not sure I would have gotten out the door tonight without you guys, so just wanted to say thank you. And that is from Nicole H in Melbourne, Australia. Thank you, Nicole. You have really underlined, and that means a lot actually, because so many times
awesome.
It is true, isn't it? We're not sure we want to go out the door. And I can remember going out in hailstones and rain, and you really think for the first 5 minutes, why on earth am I doing this? And then those endorphins wake up, and then you come back in and you not only feel proud of yourself, but you feel better.
Exactly. I feel a bit of a chill of happiness around that. It's so true. That story, that's that kind of narrative in your head of I don't want to. Oh, I keep banging my pen. Sorry, producer Mark. But the more you say no to yourself, the bigger the euphoria of when you do it. And the running out I love running in rain, not the initial moment, but once you're wet through and you're already cold, it's awesome. It's like Phoebe from Friends, when she just runs free, which is apt because you have a box set for Friends in the background, which we never mentioned at the top of the show. Yeah,
I do.
Still my favourite show ever, but yes,
things
so you
got
won't get bored.
Through training camps in the 2000s.
Run like Phoebe. But that's a nice one to finish on, I think.
That is a brilliant one to end on. So thank you so much, everybody, for getting in touch. Don't forget to tune in to the weekly Shakeout later in this week. That's dropping on Thursday. Also, don't forget that we do still have that offer going with NordVPN. You can get your 4 extra months free. So you can protect your privacy online. You can keep all your streaming services that you follow at home going when you go away on holiday, wherever you are in the world. Don't forget to check out that extra deal, because I have, and I'm using it, and that is at nordvpn.com/Paula's Run Club. Check it out, and you can remember to please like and subscribe us, as well as keeping sending in your messages to us on the text +44 7564 747914. email paulasrunclub@momentumbroadcast.co.uk, and on those social handles @paulasrunclub. This has been a Momentum Broadcast production. Thank you for being a part of our club, and please do reach out with whatever your questions, be they marathon related and New York related, any other marathon, any distance, or even just getting started in the journey of running. We look forward to joining you next week.
On behalf of everyone listening, thank you, Paula, for your great stories around New York. And see you next week, guys.